Welcome to the Base Coat Brainiac podcast. My name is Austin Hauser. I am Chief Brainiac over here at Base Coat Marketing. And I'm joined today by two amazing humans. We have both Jason Paris of Paris Painting, Aleph Holding. I'm sure you have some other tags to add on there, Jason. And then I also have Lyn Askin, who is one of my favorite people in the whole world. He is a certified EOS implementer. And I brought these group of titans together today to discuss one thing, and that is getting more freedom out of your business. So before we dive too far into this, Jason, why don't, for anybody who has not heard your voice before, who maybe hasn't seen you on your own Wikipedia page, which I'm assuming you have, give us 3 facts about who you are and why you're here.
I hope I do not have a Wikipedia page. 3 facts about me. So founded Paris Painting, which is an 8-figure residential repaint company in Minnesota. Volunteer leader with the PCA. Formerly was the youngest board chair, much younger than the current board chair, who is very old in age. And then I have 5 beautiful children, age 9 and under.
And I have 2, and I feel like that is enough for me. So I can only imagine with how much time you have on your hands. So Lyn, tell us about you. Why are you here? Who are you?
Hi, guys. My name is Lyn Askin. Austin, a great buddy of mine. It's great to be here with you. I'm a professional EOS implementer, but like most of you probably listening, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Had a paper route when I was 9 years old. At some point, I built one of the first online auctions in 1996. Built our first e-commerce store in 1997, and have been, in this sort of digital marketing world ever since. Husband and father. All of those other good things.
Awesome. So again, as I mentioned, we are here to talk about getting freedom out of your business. And instead of working in your business, start working on it. EOS was one of these things that we implemented this year, and it has been a game changer for us. And I really feel like anybody out there running any kind of business should be on this business system. So what I'd like to do is start by picking on you, Lyn. Let's paint the picture. Let's pretend that I own a painting business and that I'm struggling. I'm struggling to find the right people, to scale my business, to hold my team accountable. I don't have a clear vision or direction as to where I want to be in the next year or 2 years or 3 years. What is EOS and how can it help me solve those problems?
Yeah, thanks, Austin. EOS is actually it's a framework. It's a business framework on how to grow your business and scale. It was invented by a man named Gino Wickman, who's also a lifelong entrepreneur who had to sort of been called into his family business and took over that business, and obviously had a big turnaround, sold his company off. He became one of the first 10 members of the Detroit EO chapter. And working with those other businesses, he just sort of began to cobble together this simple set of tools and fundamentals, the business fundamentals that would help you grow your business. He saw a difference in, there's like 5% of the businesses out there that are really successful and doing well. And there's the other 95% that are struggling a little bit. We're all kind of built the same way. We're all kind of wired the same way. And we all tend to be dealing with 136 issues simultaneously. And what Gino put together is a system or a framework to harness those 136 issues that we're all dealing with, because really all of those issues that we deal with on a daily basis are really just a symptom of a root cause. And so he put together a system designed to help you get better at a couple of things. Vision, which is, understanding where you are, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. Traction is where you and your entire team are executing with discipline and accountability, working on your vision. And then, of course, healthy. And healthy is really about being a more fun-loving, cohesive group of people that like to work together. So that's really the EOS system in a nutshell. It's a framework. A good friend of mine described it the other day as, running a business. There's guesswork, there's hard work, and then there's frameworks. EOS is that framework.
Love it. And Jason, why don't we start with you here then? How has your experience been like implementing EOS? And I'd like to maybe use the word journey, because you're never really done implementing EOS, right?
Yeah, especially if you start really poorly, then you got a long ways to go, a long journey. When I first started to implement it, I think I'd read the book and got all excited and got the 2 guys I had with me. Book, Traction, looks like a tire. getting traction. Makes sense. And it lasted for maybe a month, and then we stopped. And then we run a seasonal business. We're in Minnesota, so it's northern half of the U.S. So it's pretty affected by seasonal climate. Then you get to the down season, which is the colder temperatures, and you start to say, oh, what do I need to do to improve the framework? I love that word, the framework of the business, our organizational system, the architecture of how things operate. You're like, oh yeah, I tried to do that, and then we stopped. So now I try it again, right? So it took a couple goes. I would just say, one of my favorite sayings is, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. And that's a very entrepreneurial spirit way to approach things, which is don't be afraid to jump in, fail a couple of times, do it poorly, and make incremental improvements. So that's what it looked like for us to implement it. We tried, we failed, we started to do it. Lyn probably has heard all the issues that we've learned the hard way, because we didn't hire an implementer. We just did it on our own. So he probably could have saved us a lot of headache. Scorecard explosions. So it's no longer a scorecard. It's just a bunch of random metrics and, all those issues. And then you reread the book, and then you come back and try and shore it up.
Yeah. And I think that's an important distinction that everybody listening should be able to understand is Lyn is a certified EOS implementer. And then you could also have another path, which is called self-implementation, where you actually read the book Traction and you try to implement it yourself. Now, it's difficult. It's not easy, but there's sunshine and rainbows on the other side. So what I'd like to do is just first start by explaining EOS. Lyn, what made you land on EOS out of all the other business systems out there? Because there are other ways to run a business, but why EOS?
Well, I don't know how far back you want to go with this story. I too read Traction in 2014. I too tried to self-implement and struggled. It's the way I like to look at EOS is it's simple, but it's not easy. It's a simple set of functions, but it is hard. There's a lot of things that we're trying to work on. I actually really settled on EOS in 2020. It was October. I was cleaning up my yard. Hurricane Laura just came through Louisiana. We had a fence down in the backyard, and I was out there in the backyard and was trying to put that fence back up. And I was really struggling just emotionally and physically to get that done. It was just, it was hard work. And I don't know, I wasn't not 100 years old. I was 50 years old, and I'm in my backyard and I was struggling to do some physical work that I was trying to do. And as it turned out, I collapsed in my yard, had a massive pulmonary embolism, and ended up being raced to the ICU and basically thought I was dead. And obviously I survived that, but that whole time on the 30-minute ride to the hospital, all I could think of was, what kind of mess did I leave my wife and son? I didn't have a business. I had a job. It was 100% reliant on me. And if I died that day, my business dies with me. My wife was going to have to go down to the office. She would have to lock the door, fire all the employees, lose all of our clients. And that would have been the legacy that I left my family. And so luckily, thank God, I was given another chance to figure this out. And I knew that moment that I had to do something different. I had to build a company that could work without me, that I wasn't involved in the day-to-day, and that I wasn't required to touch every piece of it every minute of every day. And so I started digging. I looked at a lot of systems. I looked at several. I looked at Clockwork. I looked at Scaling Up. I looked at a bunch. But because I had a little foundation in the EOS, I just started to dig into that. And at that point, I hired an EOS implementer, and it revolutionized our business. We 3x'd our profits. We 3x'd our revenue. We 7x'd our profits. We grew from 10 employees to 27. And over that period of about 1.5 years, 2 years, I was able to take myself out of the day-to-day, build a 7-figure business, and build a sort of legacy for my family.
Amazing. So powerful.
So at that point, obviously I drank the EOS Kool-Aid. I was all in on this system. It changed my life. And because I was freed up from running the day-to-day, it allowed me to do more of the things that I love to do, and the coaching and I don't know, I just wanted to share this operating system with other people, and became a professional EOS implementer.
It's very addictive. And I notice when we hire a new client who is an EOS company, they latch on and they love that. So Jason, why don't we go to you now? Tell us what your life was like before and after EOS.
before there's a lot. So EOS it's a framework, like Lyn said, it's a tool. It's not going to solve things for you. It helps you organize your thoughts better. So I'd say before, there's a lot of business building that needs to happen early on, and Traction does a good job of helping to organize that. So a lot of the desires of what I want the business to look like and the developmental steps to get there were in my head, but it wasn't clear that we were moving in the right direction or not. So that's how I can most simply describe it, is this general desire to move in a direction in the business, which I believe is happening, versus a more clear path of how to get there and knowing am I on track or off track.
Yeah. And I always like to break it down as if you're programming the people in your company to get to where you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. I have a development background, so I eat up EOS when I just look at it running our entire company from a spreadsheet, essentially. So Lyn, let's get into the weeds. Tell us where to get started with EOS. If I own a painting company, I have a team, I'm struggling day to day, where do I start?
I think, some of the things Jason said there resonated with me a little bit. He's talking about starting a business, and I just want to recognize the fact that most of us as visionaries or entrepreneurs, we're sort of visionary kind of people. And I wouldn't say we necessarily lack on execution, but most of our dreams and most of our vision goes unrealized because of a lack of discipline and accountability in our systems and processes. We have these big ideas and these big dreams, and we just can't get them all done. We can't get the right people to help us. We can't do it all ourselves. Essentially, if you want to do anything in your life, you get to a point where there's only so many hours in the day. You have to learn how to clone yourself and delegate processes. So how does one get started with EOS? I think foundationally, if you're kind of the visionary in your company, you're the guy with the big ideas, the one likes to take that 30,000 foot view and wants to understand what EOS is. There's of course the book Traction. That's kind of the how-to or the manual a bit of EOS, if you will. But if you're a visionary and you want to see another view of it, I think there's a great book called Get a Grip that I think is a great fit for the sort of the visionary in a company. I think it's sort of the fable of EOS, and it's a story. It's told as a story about how a company was kind of struggling along, and they hired an implementer, and they started to put EOS in place, and all of the challenges that they faced. And it's a much easier read for a lot of us. So I would say those are the ways to get started. Understand the kind of concepts of EOS, and then dig in. There's obviously 2 ways to implement. Self-implement, which, like I said, it's a simple system, but it's not easy. And then there are 649 professional EOS implementers in the world, of which I am one, that can help you, fast track yourself to success. I would say that you can absolutely self-implement, but if you want to take a quantum leap, I think the hiring an implementer is the way to go. And again, I'm not trying to sell you EOS. I'm laying out the facts here.
Yep.
When you have that outside voice that comes in, it's almost like there's a commercial with the TV dad where the dad tells his son, "Hey, there's this good idea," and son's like rolls his eyes, and then TV dad says the idea, and he's like, "Hey, that's a great idea." That's almost what it's like to have me come into your company, and you as the CEO, the visionary, get to actually work on your business, and you don't have to be the one to install this system, right?
Right. And I think you brought up a really good point there. It requires buy-in. This isn't just about you as the business owner. Your team needs to be on board with this, and they need to understand it and provide feedback and add value. Jason, I do have a question for you. Where did you start? So EOS, there's a lot of components to it, the L10s, the scorecards, the VTO. Where did you guys start? Where did you fail? And then what got you back on track?
So we started with the VTO. That was super fun and brought a lot of unity to the team. It's kind of, if someone's not on board with your VTO and they're a key player, get them out. And that helped just kind of bring, like I said, a lot of clarity to where we wanted to go as an organization, what our core values were, what our overarching strategy was going to be, what success looked like to us as a team. So that's where we started, and that's about as far as we got. And then we probably started to try to do one L10 or something, and or maybe tried to do the first quarterly kickoff, whatever it was, and then chaos hit us in the face and we dropped it. So that's how we started. The VTO is, especially as a, for visionaries, it's like, this is great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. This is like the most fun part of doing business, is putting it on the whiteboard and imagining how beautiful it's going to be. And then you have to do the work, and it's less fun.
So Lyn, let's start there. What is the VTO? Break that down for somebody who doesn't know what EOS is.
The VTO is short for Vision Traction Organizer. In EOS, we don't do a 40-page business plan. We have a very simple 2-page business plan. We call it the Vision Traction Organizer. First page of that is the vision side. Second page is the traction side. And vision, once again, is getting everybody on your team understanding who you are as a company, your core values. And what that really means is, not the ones like, oh, integrity and honesty, not that. A lot of people say that, but, and one of the things Jason said there is he did it with his team. What where most visionaries sort of make a mistake is like, all right, I'm going to write our core values and I'm going to push these on our entire team. I tried to do the same thing. But when I hired an EOS implementer, he basically shredded my core values and said, no, Lyn, those are your core values. What are your team's core values? And we built that together. So you start with your core values. You build a 10-year target, a 3-year picture, 1-year plan. You build some rocks and you build an issues list. And then you really have vision about where you guys are headed. So the VTO is really the 8 questions that we ask. That seems like a simple thing. It is, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's simple.
So vision. So just kind of break that down. A vision of where you want the company to be in the next 3, 5, 10 years. And then your core values. What else am I missing there?
So core values first. And then
how many core values do you recommend?
3 to 7. Most people fall around 5, I would say. So, and core values really come from, there's something called you guys are both parents, but parenting effectiveness training. The 3 really, really big rules of being a great parent are to have a simple set of a handful of rules, to repeat yourself often. And if you're going to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. So you have to set the standard and follow those rules. And those rules in EOS are your core values. So you're going to set a simple set of core values and follow them.
So Jason, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. What are your core values over there at Paris Painting?
Engaged, accountable, exceptional, grateful.
Perfect. Yep. Short and sweet. So when we first made our list of core values, I think I had 10 or 12, and somebody asked me to close my eyes and rattle them off. And I got 3. I'm like, all right, we need to cut these down. So I think that's a really important distinction, is a lot of people start just throwing everything down on paper, thinking that they need them all. And then another question that people ask is, what core values should I have? Jason, I'm curious, how did you land on those core values?
It was a little bit of a workshop. So those were summary words of feelings. So I'm a pretty manic person. So like, let's go is a common phrase. So core value couldn't be let's go with an exclamation point, or we ended up not doing that. So that turned into engaged. Right? You have to be engaged in your role. You have to be excited to show up to work. You ultimately just engaged in your role. Accountability, that was a little bit from wanting to be excellent. And so to be excellent, you have to be accountable. No, that's exceptional. Sorry. Excellence went to exceptional. I don't know. I could go through each one. It's basically like talking about feelings and bringing out sentences of, and to Lyn's point, it was a team effort for us. And I don't know if there's a right or wrong to that. I personally think it's better, but you do have to decide pretty early on, is this going to be my business that I'm going to run and control, or I'm going to empower leaders within the organization? If I'm empower leaders in the organization, what are the odds that they're going to follow my specific brand of a vision versus co-creating a vision that we're all magnetized to? And so that for us, it was a group discussion. We talked about the feelings of what we felt we were good at, ended up simplifying it. Probably took like a year before we landed on these 4 words, ultimately saying engaged, accountable, exceptional, grateful.
So good. And I really think somebody told me once, your core values, your business will tell you what your core values need to be. It's obviously going to be a reflection not only of you as the business owner, but the rest of your team. and your team is going to be the one who helps drive that forward at the end of the day.
I think that's like a good one for the trades. For us, grateful was such an obvious one because the trades are so ungrateful. Most tradespeople think they're God's gift to everybody, especially their clients. We're like, well, what if we were grateful to our clients? And what if we weren't the huge ego painter, plumber, electrician, typical stereotypical tradesperson, and we instead approached it from a foundation of gratefulness. So sometimes your industry could help tell you, how would you thrive in this industry? Humbleness, humility, gratefulness might guide you there.
Love it. So Lyn, we establish our VTO. We understand where we want to go in the next 10 years and some of the core values that we have defined that's going to get our team there. Tell us also why those core values are important whenever it comes to GWC, and what is GWC? Because I love this acronym.
All right. So your core values, a lot of us, I think I just want to give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough of that, because I want to make sure you understand the way that we view them at EOS. Core values are the characteristics of your team. They're not necessarily characteristics of you or your company. And so the exercise that we do is we say, who is your very best employee? Give me your top 3. Who in your team, if you could clone them and you could make 100 of them, you could take over the world together. Like, who's that person? Now give me their characteristics. What is it? What is it about them that makes them a great employee at Base Coat Marketing? Those are the kind of people, and those are the values you want. And we use core values to attract that kind of talent. We also use it to repel the kind of talent that doesn't fit our core values. Because when we decide who we are and what it means to be a great employee at Base Coat Marketing, we don't want anyone else. That's who we're going to be. And so we build our core values around who we are as people and what it means to be a great employee here. It's not something necessarily you're going to post on your website and these are the core values. It's really an internal team thing, and it's about who you are at the core, right? It's who you are at the core. So our core values are something that we use every single day. We use it to hire, we use it to fire, we use them to train, we use them to correct, we use them to praise, we use them in one-on-ones, we use them you have to live them. You have to, because if you, I don't know, a good example, I guess, is probably Enron. Enron, obviously we know Enron, I happen to be in Houston today, but Enron, one of their core values was integrity. It means nothing if you don't live it. It means nothing if you don't live your core values. So you have to live your core values every single day. And so we use our core values a bunch of different ways. Mostly we use them to praise our team and correct and that sort of thing. So I may have gotten a little off topic there on your question, but I wanted to make sure that I understood or the audience understood how we view your core values at EOS.
No, I think it's an important point, though, is the fact that a lot of people develop core values because they see Netflix and Amazon doing it and they think, oh, I need to do it too. And I'm going to stick these core values on my website and, make a whole page about it. But then that's it. They just fall on their face there. So really the core values of the EOS has a purpose behind it. And I think that's where getting into the get it, want it capacity to do it. This is where I really fell in love with EOS. And so Lyn, why don't you first explain how that works just from a high level? And then Jason, I'd love to get your opinion on how you guys use it within your company.
Okay. So what you're talking about there, the core values and the GWC, or gets it, want it, has capacity to do it. Those are the two fundamental tools or disciplines in building great people. So we think people is one of your 6 key components of your business. First one's traction, or the first one's vision. Second one's traction. I'm sorry, losing my mind here. First one is vision. Second one is people. Now, and the 2 key components of people are getting the right people in the right seats. The right people are people that live your core values. The people you want to be around, the people you want in your company, people that you can hanging out with and doing business with. Getting those right people in the right seats, that's where the GWC comes in. Those are people that are great at their job. They have God-given talent and they have skills. They get it, they want it, and they have capacity to do it. And so we judge our employees and our potential hires on, are they consistently living our core values, and do they get it, do they want it, and have the capacity to do the job? Because if they don't get it, maybe they could learn it. If they don't want it, you have no chance. If they don't have the capacity to do the job, you're also out. So we use those three: gets it, wants it, has capacity to do it, to make hiring decisions and putting the right people in the right seats.
So good. And that has been a game changer for us when we identify, actually, but before I get into how we use it, Jason, what has your experience been in using GWC within your company? How do you guys use it? And then how does that correlate with your core values?
Yeah, very similar. Hiring, performance reviews, which are ultimately promotions or firings or continuing of their current role. It's nice to put that in writing and then have a third party audit that. So oftentimes we'll have one person that's doing the interview, get it, wanted capacity, core values, have to write matches for each one of those. And then they'll be like, oh, I want to hire this person. I can't put my finger on it. They're awesome. Right? And the third party comes in, someone else from the management team or the board. And that's the only thing they would look at, right? Get it, wanted capacity, core value fit. Same thing with an end of the year review. It's just nice to have a paper trail of these things. So if there's someone where you're like, I don't think they're working out. I don't know if I want to continue to work with them. Like, well, who's been doing their quarterly performance reviews? Let's look at those things and just those things. There's a bunch of other commentary and color and feelings and stuff that goes into that. But that's a good, it's a good paper trail to just say, how was I feeling about this employee's performance and culture fit at the time?
Jason, you made a great point there, and I don't want the subtlety of it to go to pass us by. One of the things that you said there was, you were talking about employees and evaluating them. In EOS, you know how hard it would be if you had, let's say, Bob works here, and I don't know, there's something about Bob I don't like, right? It's just I get this feeling it's not. How do you start that conversation with Bob? You're like, hey, Bob, I know you're doing okay, but there's something about you I don't like. Well, you can't really do that. But what you can do is, hey, Bob, remember when I hired you and I told you that these were our core values? You've been kind of laxed on this one, right? Now you've got a way to correct Bob and give him an opportunity and teach him what it means to live the core value of delivering excellence. Teach him what it means to live the core value of humbly confident or whatever. And now you have an opportunity to correct and grow and build Bob instead of just having this feeling that it's not working out. We actually have data and a plan and a system to be able to make those judgments.
Yeah. So the one thing that I really fell in love with GWC in particular is the fact that it breaks down, if there's ever a problem with a personnel issue in your company, there's only one of three things that could be going wrong. And the best part about this is this works in any industry for any company, whether you're a tech company or a painting company, you can use the same model. So in our case, just as an example, if somebody's falling behind, they're not getting the job done, it's because they either don't understand their job, they don't have the capacity to do their job, or they don't want it, right? And we actually use this as an interview question where we'll propose on the end of the interview, hey, we run on EOS. We evaluate each person in each seat based on their ability to get it, want to have the capacity to do it. We kind of break that down. And then we ask them, out of those three things, what do you think is the most important? And if they don't say want it, they're probably not going to be a good fit because they don't understand the fact that they need to want that job and they need to want to show up each day, or else you can't train that. You can't hire somebody else to free up their time. So that has been a game changer for us. I absolutely fell in love with that. And that's what really got us into EOS. But I want to kind of dive into the nuances of EOS and how you run meetings, because I know we all love meetings here. And I think EOS was one of those game changers for us, that instead of doing 5 weekly meetings every single day, we now have one or a few each, one each quarter, one each week. Let's talk about meetings and how EOS is run. Lyn, I'm going to look at you for this one.
Great. So like you said, meetings suck. Like it doesn't matter what room I walk in. If I say, all right, guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, give me a score, with 10 being the best, rate your meetings. I get 4s and 5s always, right? They're disorganized. I think we're really good as entrepreneurs about getting in a room together, looking at an issue in our company and discussing the heck out of it. Right? We just talk about it and discuss and discuss and discuss. Rarely do we ever solve it. Rarely do we ever actually get to the root cause of the problem. We often put Band-Aids on it. Like, oh, that's a little problem. Let's just cover that up. Sometimes we wrap them up with duct tape and twine, stick them in the corner and ignore them. But rarely do we ever walk out of there with a plan of attack on how we're going to squash that problem for the greater good of the company forever. And so Gino created something called the level 10 meeting. And it's called the level 10 because most people will rate their meetings a 4 or 5. We got to get those meetings to 10. And so we've created a meeting cadence. It's the rules of a level 10 meeting they're the same time, the same day, same time, every week. They start on time, they end on time, and all of those things. And so we have a meeting cadence, and we have a very, very specific agenda of that meeting. So you come into the meeting, you do a segue, you review your scorecards, you review your rocks, you do customer employee headlines, you look at your to-do list, and then you get into the meat of the meeting, which is IDS. We identify, discuss, and actually solve the problems that you face on a day-to-day basis. So that's basically the level 10 meeting agenda. It takes meetings from like those 3s and 4s and 5s that you guys are rating them to 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
It's the most effective part of your week.
So Jason, what day of the week do you guys run your L10?
We do it Thursday afternoon.
Is there a particular reason you guys do Thursday and not, let's say, Monday?
Because all of the other ones are on Mondays and Tuesdays.
So
it's different. So like that'd be like the one L10 that I'm involved in would be for our ventures program, which is where we're talking about partnering with other painting companies and purchasing equity. Obviously, I think the best time to do it is Monday and Tuesday, which is when most of the other executives are in the other meetings, because then you have a close proximity to review last week's numbers. So I think typically our weekly rhythm would be Monday, you get grounded, make sure you have all the clear metric, all the clear data, get all the information you need. And then Tuesday morning, they have their first L10. They're close enough to review last week's results and still have an impact on the current week. But you could do it, I don't know. I would imagine the worst time to do it is midweek. Best time we would do it would be beginning of the week or end of the week, from my opinion.
And, I asked you that question in particular. We started ours on Mondays and realized, you know what, we have other departments. And if you're running a painting business, you have the production side and the business side, and you can have multiple L10 meetings at different levels of your company. So what we have identified is having L10s within our departments at the start of the week, identifying all of their issues, raising those up to the leadership L10 has allowed us to more effectively solve those problems. I am curious though, Lyn, we touched on rocks. Can we go back to rocks? Because those are dramatically a part of your L10 meeting.
Yeah, a rock is the biggest 90-day business priorities you have for your company. So whatever your largest priorities, issues, challenges are for the next 90 days that you absolutely need to solve, those are rocks. And that came from Stephen Covey, essentially. Stephen Covey had a glass cylinder, which represents your available time. And then next to that cylinder, he had a pile of rocks. That's the big stuff, the important stuff. Next to that, a pile of pebbles. That's just sort of the day-to-day. And then you have the sand and the distractions and everything else, right? If you put that stuff in the jar in the wrong order, if you let the distractions and everything else go first, and then you put in the pebbles, there's no room for the rocks. It just won't fit. So the important stuff never gets done. You got all these other little distractions and all these other things happening that are getting in your way. And so if you put the rocks in first, though, then the pebbles will filter in around the rocks. Then the sand will filter in around the pebbles. And then you can even there's even room for the water. And you're always getting the most important stuff done first.
So powerful. So you not only have weekly meetings in EOS, but you also have quarterly meetings. And those define your rocks. So can we talk about how those quarterly meetings work, what the objective of those meetings are, and how that all ties together?
Yeah, I think obviously we've sort of skipped a little bit of the fundamental stuff of EOS. We kind of buzzed through the VTO a little bit, but some of the most important work that we do in your VTO or your Vision Traction Organizer is we set a future dated, big, hairy, audacious goal. Anything from 5 to 30 years out, right? This is our 10-year target. We're going to set that giant goal, and that way everybody in the company can align around where we're going. Okay, this is what we're going to be 5 or 10 years from now. You step backwards from that, you're going to create a 3-year picture. And what your 3-year picture is we're building a crystal clear vision for the team and for everybody to understand what we're going to look like just 3 years from now. So we're going to set measurables. We're going to set our profit numbers, our revenue number. We're going to set some, and we're going to build a picture of what it looks like. And we're going to visualize it, because if you can get your entire team visualizing what your company looks like just 3 years from now, the odds of you actually achieving that are just so much greater. Then we're going to take one step back from that. We're going to create a 1-year plan. So we're going to do the same thing, same measurables, so revenue, profit, measurables, those sort of things. And then we're going to set your biggest business goals, the things that you need to accomplish in the next year. We're going to take one step back from that, and we're going to plan your next 90 days. We're going to create 90-day rocks. What are the 3 to 7 biggest business priorities that we must accomplish in the next 90 days? So that's a rock, and that's how we set it. And that's where it comes from. If you can't get your rocks done, you'll never hit your 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year vision plans.
So, all right, Jason, I want to ask you, what do your rocks look like within your painting company? Can you propose a few examples of how a painting business owner today may be able to start with rocks, L10s? So I think that is kind of the basic framework that a lot of people can just get started on EOS.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. So I'm pulling up the sheet. I'm an absentee owner. I'll just call that out in the painting company. So a rock would be sales, marketing, customer experience. I don't know what these even mean. 510 self-gen bids would be a rock. So the organization, this is probably because we came in with a softer economy this year. So the sales team is looking to self-gen some leads or some appointments, and set a big annual goal of what if we generated this many self-gens for it. Another rock would be, beginning a drywall division. Right, that's something over the course of the year we want to create our drywall division. That's an annual goal. It's going to have many quarterly rocks leading up to it, which will have weekly action steps that all bubble up into that item. Some example of quarterly rocks would be, and I'll just come out. Some of these are not rocks; they are scorecard items, which is an issue as I look onto this. Level like certification levels in a sales process. So we coach over our people. We had 3 new sales reps pop on this year. And so getting them to a level 3 in the sales process would be another example of a quarterly rock. Typically, they should be more, from what I understand, they should be more developmental in nature. So they're developing the people, developing the business overall. This is different than your scorecard, which is more metric based. That'd be like production, sales, margin, things like that.
Yeah,
I think the fundamental thing that we're talking about here is a rock is your biggest 90-day business goal, and that really depends on your business. It depends on where you are in your development. It depends on the number of team you have. But it could be something like hire another person for this, add another truck. It could be any of those things that you could be growing towards, and they're typically some sort of reverse engineer of your 1-year goals. So if you've got these 1-year goals and these are the things that we must hit, what are the milestones or steps that we need to take in the next 90 days to move towards that 1-year goal?
that is the glue that holds it all together. You're exactly right. So whenever I talk about programming your people in your company to run on EOS, it's all with that end goal in mind. This is where we want to be. What do we need to do in the meantime to get there? And that's where those rocks really come into play. So Jason, you touched on a scorecard. I have fell in love with our scorecard, and I want to start with Lyn and then go back to you, Jason, to identify some example KPIs that we can put in a scorecard. But Lyn, what is a scorecard in terms of EOS? How do we use it? Why is it important?
One of the 6 key fundamental pieces of your business are the data component, and so we look at running your business on real facts and figures and metrics, and not the sort of emotions and decision-making processes that a lot of us take. We want to make decisions based on numbers. And so imagine, if you will, in your business, you were on a deserted island. You had no access to the outside world, but someone could bring you a scorecard, and it would contain some key metrics. And from those key metrics, you had to know, is my business on track or is it off track? Are we doing well or are we not? So the question you'd ask yourself there is, what numbers do you need to see from the island? Those numbers become your scorecard. It's the lagging or the leading indicators and the activity-based items that you can look at and say, yes, all of these departments are doing well because I can see their numbers. So it's basically 5 to 15 numbers that you as the leadership team can look at to get a gauge or a pulse of your business.
Yeah, it's so important. And We check that every single week during our L10 to make sure that we are on track and identifying what that means and how we need to articulate our company as a result of that. So, Jason, we really struggled identifying what our KPIs were because you can list out a bunch of metrics, but if you can't take action on them, are they really important? So, my question to you is, can you give some examples of what a painting business owner who might be looking to start up EOS, what are some KPIs that they should be monitoring that would help drive their business in the right direction?
Yeah, and it might change depending on the scale of the business or the maturity. But
Yeah.
I would say in general, what are you producing each week? What are you selling each week? Maybe as simple as that. Are we on track? Are we off track? To those key metrics, probably give you a pretty good pulse. Another one would be a net promoter score. So what does your running or average net promoter score in your business look like? That'd be the customer satisfaction level that you have. So that's something that the shareholders, the owners are always looking at. We separate our marketing department from our sales department. So you could just look at one number of sales. We look at marketing, which is total appointments booked. And then when you get to the sales, you could dive deeper. And this is where we talked about the issue I feel like I know that we've had, which is scorecard explosion. Scorecards are like, what is your one number per department, right? And then it's nice to have the context in an IDS if you're on track or if you're off track. But we have a lot of metrics that pop up on this scorecard beyond just the sales number. It's like estimates, SR, interior versus exterior split. We have a division called coordination. Their key number is what is ready this week, right? And you say coordination, like sales and marketing are split. We split production and coordination. So that production number, that sales numbers are key. We split them up into marketing, appointments booked, sales results. And then we have what work ultimately is ready to be produced in the following week. And then what was the production number that's achieved in that. Then there's an explosion of additional metrics that really become more reporting than scorecard. It becomes, and that's where like a good EOS driver of the L10 will keep you on track. That's probably the scorecard is where things get haywire because people want to start IDSing. They want to start telling stories. You say on track, off track. If it's off track, there are 3 answers. I know what I need to do and I'm going to do it. I don't know what to do. I need help and I want a one-on-one support with my supervisor. Or I don't know what to do. I haven't figured this out in my weekly one-on-one connects and we need a group discussion. Can someone throw that on the IDS? Right, you throw it on the IDS and then the driver gets to prioritize those as they see fit. But that's how and then we have our finance and all those crazy things.
So good. So Lyn, what do you do? We've talked about being on track or off track here quite a bit. Can you explain that to us and what happens when you're off track and what does that mean?
Sure. So we, if you're looking, we use on track, off track in a couple of different places in EOS. We use it around our rocks. There is a procrastination model that basically says if the start date of a project is way over here, let me see and get over here on the screen, and the end date of the project is over here, the activity level of that project typically looks like this, down, 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 and then right at the end, there's a lot of activity to try and get it done, right? That's kind of the typical procrastination model. And so our level 10 meetings, which are the kind of the meeting cadence where we check in on our rocks every week, allows you to create these little spikes every week. And you're checking in with these people and you're saying, hey, is that rock? Remind you, it's our 90-day biggest business priority. Is that making progress? Are you on track with that to be completed by the due date? So on track means, is it on track to be completed by the date that we've set? And if it's on track, great. I mean, we're all adults. You tell me it's on track, I believe you. If it's off track, just like Jason said, it's like, then the answer is, do we need to discuss it? It might be, no, I got it. I know what I need to do. Just like you said, Jason, I know what I need to do. I'll get it done this week. I'll make progress. We'll get it back on track next week. I just didn't have time this week. But the other piece of that is, hey, I'm stuck. I don't know if I'm going to get this done by the quarter. Can I get a meeting? Can we discuss, or can we drop it down to the issues list and can we discuss it during our IDS? So again, this is just a framework for you guys you have a framework here to handle hiring, firing, employee feedback, accountability, discipline, and you don't have to invent any of it. It exists. You just have to follow the system. I think most of us as business owners, we end up thinking we have to invent a new way to hire people. We have to invent a new way to do meetings. We have to invent a new way to hold people accountable. We don't. It exists. You just need to follow the framework.
Yeah, and like I said, the thing that blows my mind about this framework is the fact that it can drive any kind of business out there. It works for everybody. And I think that's the really powerful point about this whole thing is no matter what type of business you have, it works. Now, I think the one caveat, and Lyn, correct me if I'm wrong, you need a team for this to really make sense. What size company do you think EOS is a good place to start?
Well, like any good company, EOS has developed their core target, the kind of people that they want to work with. It's on people who are entrepreneurial. They are open-minded about growth, and they fear the status quo more than real growth and change, and they're willing to be open and honest, accountable with people around them. EOS does put a number on it, and they say if you were a company between 10 and 250 employees, EOS might be a good fit for you. EOS is maybe not a good fit for everyone, but it certainly is a great system if you can build a core leadership team, which is your job as the visionary, as the CEO of your company, is to get yourself out of the day-to-day and stop painting yourself and stop answering the phones and stop doing those things. It's really your job to build a great leadership team. So you need to surround yourself with some great people. I work with leadership teams of 2 and 3 and 4, at some larger. But if you can put together a nice core leadership team, essentially somebody to fill the major functions of your business, sales and marketing, operations, fulfillment, visionary, and integrator. If you can fill those roles, sometimes you have to fit more than one of those spots. It's difficult. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to do this as a solo. But if you have a core team around you that you want to build and you have visions of growing bigger, I think EOS could be a great fit for you.
Love it. So guys, I know we've covered a lot during this call. Lyn, did we miss any framework topics that you would like to touch on, or do you feel like we've covered that pretty well at this point? And Jason, I'm going to ask you the exact same question.
There's a lot to EOS, and I think I said in the beginning that EOS is really designed to help you get better at vision, traction, and healthy. To dig in deeper to that, I would say that we would want to help you become stronger at 6 key components of your business. Again, those are vision, people, the data component, which is the metrics and scorecards. And one of the things great about EOS is when you put a scorecard in place in the leadership team, then your other departments can also have their own scorecards, right? So now everybody in your team has a metric they're responsible for. Everybody has a number that they're accountable for every single week. Okay? So there's the data component. Then we have the issues component. That's where you guys solve the biggest issues that happen in your company every week. We solve that with the IDS, right? And then we have the process component. And this is about getting everything done in your business. The handful of core processes that you guys have to do. This is about getting them done the right way and the best way every single time. So we help you build out your processes. And then of course, the 6th key component of EOS is the traction component. And that's where we bring your vision down to the ground and execute on it with discipline and accountability. And we help you do that with rocks and the level 10 meeting. That's the core functions and features of EOS. There are another 25 tools in the EOS toolbox. Once you get EOS installed, then you start learning more tools. You get into your quarterlies and annual meetings, and we install more tools in your business to help you run a better business and, quite frankly, live a better life.
Yeah, no, I think you've nailed it. EOS is the operating system, right? Entrepreneurial Operating System. It has a number of different tools, the different programs you can install in that operating system. But I never want to overcomplicate it. It's actually very simple. It's just hard to implement because it involves other people's buy-in. Jason, I know you like talking philosophy. What has your biggest takeaway been with EOS? Do you feel like we missed anything in this entire conversation here?
As I always say, there's guesswork, there's hard work, and there's framework. Okay. And I just want you to think about that for a second and appreciate that.
So good. All right. So Lyn, if somebody was interested in listening to this podcast and jumping on a call with you and discussing how they can possibly hire somebody to help them implement EOS in their company, how would they get in touch with you? What does that process look like?
I am super easy to find. I'm probably the only Lyn Askin on the planet. Type my name in Google and you will land upon my LinkedIn page or my Facebook page or anything. You're welcome to send an email to lyn.askin@eosworldwide.com. But you can find me, connect with me on social media. I'm sure we can get a link or something on the show notes here. But I'd love to talk to you about EOS. We can take 10 or 15 minutes and just see if we're a good fit. You know, we'll do a vision traction healthy call with you really quick, and just I'll ask some questions about your business, about your size, and to see if EOS is a good fit for you, and vice versa. If that makes sense, we move forward with something called the 90-minute meeting, where I present EOS to you and your leadership team. There's no charge for that meeting. We just come in and show you the system. If your team loves it, if you want it, if you buy in, then there's an opportunity for us to work together as an implementer. Now, I would say that those meetings that we do together, I want you to determine if I'm a good fit for you. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I think if maybe we're not a great fit, I can put you with another EOS implementer. There's 649 others in the country. So I know a lot of great people that do EOS, and I can introduce you to one of them that's a good fit for you.
Thanks, Lyn. And look, the reason I brought you guys all here today, again, just to recap, is freedom and finding more time in your day. I used to work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and it sucked. And EOS was one of those tools that we implemented that was just an absolute game changer for us. If you're unsure about hiring somebody, at the very least, go buy Traction by Gino Wickman. You can find it on Amazon. Highly recommend it. It's been a game changer for us. I hope it can do the same for you. Jason, any last thoughts before we close out today?
I would say that the journey is the destination.
And on that note, we're out. Thanks, guys.